wine.
So, thank you for joining.
Hey, Ellie, come on, give us a kiss. Come on.
Do admire the hanging gardens of Babylon on the way. They can't even cut that back properly.
Hello. At last I've caught you asleep.
You did hold up a Bible, upside down, but you held it up.
Hey there.
It is a massive ball of uselessness. Oh, you can't say that. Why is it my romances all go wrong? Ellie was the first girl. Her mother thought me twee. She sent a big invitation with an RSVP. It is wonderful to end a day like this, but I am completely sober and articulate, and I'm surrounded by people who cannot put two words together.
You said end the day like this. Isn't this the morning programme or something?
Yes.
Okay. You're ending it already?
Yeah, well, you've been drinking all day.
All day? That's all right then. It is the morning programme, you know.
Well, you will be drinking all day.
Oh God, after this I will.
We've learned so much on this epic journey. We've learned what makes Lewis Lewis and what it's had to deal with in the past. We've learned... What else did we learn?
I'm Mark Landsman.
Diddle bib.
Pray for me. Goodbye.
Mirador TV. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Well, that's
To Mirador.
Give us back our...
it is a thing of stuff.
We filmed the next Break an Egg in a church with the old man. I'm very happy to report the church is still standing, even after he's been in there.
She's been trying to get me to the altar for ages. And the reason that we came here, twofold. First of all, it has got a beautiful piano. And I have to give her her due. She is a beautiful pianist. But secondly, it is a very ancient church. And every time she looks at me, that makes her giggle, doesn't it?
Mm. Is this your favourite place?
Ancient and modern.
Modern.
You think you're modern, aren't you?
Of course.
Right. Well, there is another reason as well, because you have great love of Pelham House.
Indeed.
And there is Sir Nicholas Pelham's helmet.
And I believe there's also one in Pelham House.
There may well be. The real one, this is a facsimile, the real one is in a safe. Nobody says where the safe is. That's valuable nonetheless. And there's a gentleman at the back of the church, Andrew Smythe, who one day came in and discovered that that helmet had been nicked.
Oh,
Nick's helmet had been nicked.
well done. I love what you did there.
And he scoured every shop, every antique shop, and I'm going to say rubbish shop. What are the other sorts of things that have old things in but they're not antiques? I've caught us speechless again. Anyway, all the old second-hand shops, and he found it. He found it. The thieves had taken it to a shop, and the shopkeeper hadn't been too fussy about asking where it was from, and he discovered that it was from here. But I mean, this is a very ancient church. You're not a great church goer, are you?
Used to be.
Oh,
Not anymore.
what changed your mind?
I started working with you. You make me work every Sunday.
She calls it work. She makes me do things. She seems to have coffee.
Excuse you? Who has coffee mugs all around their table?
Me?
You.
Oh, the biter bit caught out.
If only you cleaned them at the end of the day. I guess that's what I'm there for.
A little swirl of water. Just back to this church, though, because it is a very interesting church. It is the church of the castle. And although nobody can quite determine when it was built, its official date is 1140. But many people believe that because it was the church of the castle, that it actually was built many years before. And it has many luminaries buried under the floors here in the vaults, including Sir Nick.
That's very interesting.
And his sons.
Wow.
But you know, Pelham House is where they lived, and you actually worked in Pelham House. So what's it like over there?
It's antique. The rooms are very nice, but yes, they can do with a bit of doing up. But they are nice.
Yes, a nice
And the
house.
grounds, the garden, absolutely marvelous. One day.
What, you'll drag me into the garden?
No!
Now, I mentioned Tom Paine earlier in the week, and Tom Paine was married here before he left for the Americas. The interesting thing about Tom Paine is that he wrote The Rights of Man, in which he believed that the common man should have a say in the governance of the country. And for that, he was charged with treason. And guess what the punishment was? To be hung, drawn,
And quartered.
Yes, and you've threatened me with that many, many a time.
Me?
Yes, you.
I am not a remember. I don't do those things.
Well, no, it was the ducking stool.
Never divulge secrets.
I'd like to get her into a ducking stool. What?
What?
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Anyway, but Tom Paine also coined the phrase the House of Commons. He said there should be an assembly there for the common man, a House of Commons. And he was married right here and lived across the road in a house. He was a customs excise officer when he was here. And a dangerous job that was too in those days. But this is all part of the history of this very ancient and old church. And every time I say ancient and old, I see you glow. You don't have to say it, do you?
You're talking about yourself.
Shut up. I thought you'd get around to it.
Well, I'm only stating the obvious. What do you think? Tell him you won't believe me.
I thought what it would be to be young and beautiful. No?
Well, if you're talking about me, that's a different kettle of fish.
And now we're getting around to your favourite topic, aren't we?
Of course. If you can talk about oysters.
Oh, see, She's been trying to get me to the altar. Told you.
Oh, God. Okay, please move on.
Well, I think we'll move on to another location. And we'll let you enjoy the rest of the day on Mirador television.
Here I am back again, all on my own, so I have no idea what's happened to my colleagues. It could be that they are sitting there champing a little bit because they've been locked out of the studio by accident, or it could be that the invitations that we use to get people into the studio haven't gone through. It could be a whole host of things. But anyway, I'm going to keep going for a little while. And see what we can do to get some sort of here is an episode from our documentary. It is very popular. We haven't played that for quite some time.
I'm Keith Hayes, and you'll be sick and tired of my face by the time. But I hope you'll bear with me as I shuffle through the streets of this lovely town, pop in and out of its pubs, and tell you a story of its bloody past. In Saxon times, it was known as Lewes. The modern term for toilet might have come from it, I suppose. But the town became respectable and is now known as Lewis. Lewis, not Lewes. But its original name does come from Saxon times. And this pretty little town in East Sussex, nicely tucked under the shelter of the South Downs, has had this high street for longer than written records go back. Pretty normal sort of UK high street, really. Typical shops and stores each side of it. Looks just like High Street UK. High Street UK, from John O'Groats to Land's End, have all got a history. But this little stretch of road has a violent and bloody history. And that history reflects much of the history of the country itself. A pint pulled from a tap is the tipple of most Englishmen, I suspect. They sure tippled in Lewis in the past. This pub goes back to 1742. There's a list of the landlords to prove it. Today, sitting on the high street, it's one of the 16 pubs in a town of 16,000. 150 years ago, there were 63 pubs in Lewis and 18 breweries. And in those days, there were only 9,000 people. Wow, what a tall tale. Yes, but true. And over the next few programmes, I'm going to take a closer look at some of the bloodier and more sensational events that have occurred on this seemingly normal high street. But right now, I'm just going to paint a general picture of this tiny English town, before I get to the bloody and the exotic. The high street is dominated by a Norman castle. One of the oldest Norman castles in the country. It was built not long after the invasion of 1066. It housed the Norman garrison, who ensured the people living inside its walls were kept safe. Indeed, Lewis was a walled town, and there is brick-by-brick evidence of the 4 gates that gave entry to the town.
By the way, Lewes isn't a corruption of Lou. It's the Saxon word for a hill. And if you thought that Lewes had lots of pubs, it has far more hilly roads. Far more even than the rest of the country, I think.
The modern-day Lewis is well used by its people. Lots of shops, markets, and even tea rooms. It also has a lot of parades. At the end of the school year, a ceremony takes place called patina. All year long, pupils design and build exotic costumes ready to parade down the high street.
Raphael, I walked onto the high street in Lewes a couple of years ago to be greeted with a lot of children running around in funny costumes. What on earth is that all about?
It's called Moving on Parade, and it's something we started 16 years ago. It started from a wish of parents to bring more art into schools because they see how much schools struggle demands of the government, and they wanted to support the school in that. So we started something called Patina, which is Parents and Teachers in the Arts.
All right.
Moving on Parade celebrates the transition from primary to secondary education of all the children in Lewes District Council.
Very colourful costumes. How do you decide what the costumes are? You're the artistic director, so you better give me a good answer on this.
So every year we have a theme. And the theme this year is Wonders of Our World. Last year we asked the community to suggest different artists that they would like to see on the parade, and loads of suggestions came in, and we shortlisted the huge list into 16 schools, which was the amount of schools that took part last year. We had Frida Kahlo, and we had Picasso, and we had Van Gogh, and we have Giacometti, and we had Andy Warhol. So they doing illustrations and designs, and then the patina artists take all the children's idea and adapt it into a practical design that the children are actually able to make in a couple of days. We invite about 8 or 10 people from every school to come and learn the skills of the carnival costume, and they start to make the big make that the school going to carry. And after that, the patina artists going into the school and work with the children on their individual costumes. We're trying to really do it as a enjoyment, getting people together. They're all gonna meet in their secondary school later on. We're trying that they'll meet each other beforehand as well. So we're doing events all year round for the benefit of the whole community, not just for the year sixes.
You do other things. You said you go to the schools. What do you do in the schools?
So our next event is on the 22nd of April. It's called Dance Your Socks Off. And because the theme this year is Wonders of Our World, we thought it'll be really fun to have an evening of teaching flamenco, bhangra, and the sirtaki with world food. We're going to have sushi, we're going to have international cocktails, we're going to have professional dance scholars who are going to teach the dance, and it's going to be a really fun event, and that's for children as well.
See, cocktails. I told you Lewes is a drinking town.
Yeah, we're pretty good at cocktails. Growing every year, so we making contact with our twin towns. We're making contact with Lewes in America. There's a group of them, artists from Lewes in America, coming to Lewes in June. We made contact with them, and what we would really like is to use this format in other places, because Lewis is the only place that we know of who celebrates
Yeah,
their
yeah.
moving on from primary to secondary schools, and it's people that hear about it, they are impressed, and it will be really nice for other people, other children in other communities to do the same.
Yeah, I did realise it was unique to Lewis and a very unusual operation. Well, how do the children react to it? I mean, generally speaking, do you get great support from the kids?
Yes, we do, and because it's been going for so many years, it becomes a part of the cultural calendar of the town. So young children know that when they get to year 6, they'll do the moving on parade, and all the siblings did it, and they've seen the rest of the older ones doing it. So it's kind of something that they look forward to.
I'm known for wearing strange costumes. As you can see, my hats are still there in this episode, so I don't think I should be marching, but I most certainly will come to the cocktails.
Great.
Raffaella, thank you so much.
Pleasure. Thank you.
The adults have their turn, and on November the 5th, the biggest Guy Fawkes celebration anywhere in the world takes place. Exotic costumes, burning crosses, effigies stuffed with fireworks. Rousers, that is a banger to you and I, are tossed casually into the street. And almost every citizen of the town, old and young, takes part. There's a bit more to the bonfire celebration, though, than just the gunpowder plot. In 1553, Queen Mary was determined to bring Roman Catholicism back to England. Right here on the High Street, she burned 17 people at the stake who wouldn't convert. The dungeon, where they were held before being so horribly slaughtered, is still here, up these steps, being the last walk the condemned men would take. It was a horrible death. They were put into tar barrels, which were then set alight. Pretty bloody stuff. But we'll leave the High Street for a few minutes. Then we'll bring you more gore, blood and guts. I think the government stinks. And I think the last government stank. And what's more, I think the government even before that stank. Whether I believe that or not, is quite irrelevant. What is important is whether I can say it without being locked up by the King's men. It wasn't always so. The rights enjoyed in a free democracy started right here. It was here, near to the High Street, that blood was shed in the name of freedom. It was match of the day, the King versus the barons. King Henry III was roundly defeated at the Battle of Lewes, just on the edge of the town. Despite holding the castle, the king's men were put to the sword, and many were massacred in both the huge priory, which stood near the town, and right here in our bloody High Street. Panicking soldiers were easy pickings for the pursuing forces of Simon de Montfort. The Battle of Lewes is said to be the first step towards democracy in this country. That was in 1243. If you say the Battle of Lewes to most people around this country now, they glance at you with vacant eyes. They don't know what it's about. What was it about?
Well, you're right. Most people here don't know about it. What happened was Simon de Montfort and his barons were arguing with the king and his men about representation in Parliament, whereas the king, the king just had all of his men and a lot of his French relatives in Parliament, and he was taxing the barons very heavily, and all of this money was going to the French relatives or going abroad, and the barons were not very happy about this. So they wanted at least half of the 24 men in Parliament to be elected barons. So, I mean, though it's not very democratic in the sense that we have it today, it's the start of that representation of a view that is not just the king's view on how things should be run. Simon de Montfort got to hear that the king was down at the Priory of St. Pancras. And why he was there was for the Feast of St. Pancras in the middle of May. And of course it was a big feast, and people would come from all over the world, actually, or all over Europe, to the feast. So he needed somewhere as big as the Priory to be able to feed all these people and entertain them for a few days. And that's why he was here. Simon de Montfort was up country in northern Sussex in some of his estates with his men, and he heard that the king was down here, and he sent messengers. He sent bishops of Winchester and London down with money, with £30,000, which is a fortune in those days, to try and negotiate a settlement with the king. The king was a little bit reticent to go into war with Simon de Montfort, because, yes, they were brother-in-laws, and he was an old man. They were in their late 50s at the time. Not that that's old now, but it was then. But the king's brother, Richard of Alamein, also called King of the Romans, etc., he wanted war. And, of course, Prince Edward, hothead, he definitely wanted war. So they settled, you know, the ransom money was sent back, and the envoys, the bishops, were sent back, and so it was war the next day. They negotiated the Mise of Lewis, most of which was, you know, yes, we took this castle, well, we give you it back, and you give us this, and we'll ransom this man and that man for this man and that man, that kind of thing. But it also set down where the king would say, you know, 24 of the 24, we're going to have 12 elected barons, so that we're going to have the beginning of a parliamentary election. And Simon de Montfort made the king hand over his seals, which meant that the king had no power. So Simon de Montfort became the de facto king. It changed the king's complete and outright power. And Prince Edward then went on to, as king, ratify the clauses of the Magna Carta and the provisions of Oxford. And those began to change the king's power. And it also meant things like, if a woman died as a widow, her dowry money was hers. It didn't need to be given over to her husband's family and sons and what have you.
There's a start of women's rights as well.
There you go.
My goodness
There
me.
you go. The Normans did it for us.
The man who gave the name to the House of Commons, and according to at least one historian, named America the United States, preached his heretical views in the town's pubs.
Here we go again. Pubs in Lewes. You can't get away from them.
There's a tale handed down from Crown landlord to Crown landlord that Tom Paine was barred from drinking in that bar because he harassed and harangued the regulars to the point where they wouldn't drink anymore. They were fed up with Tom preaching the rights of man. So he walked across the street to the coaching inn, the White Hart,
where a more lenient landlord turned a blind eye, or, a more likely, a deaf ear to the ravings of this revolutionary.
It seemed that he used to like to spend his social hours here and his active political discussion times here in volatile discussion with a group which I believe we thought was called the Headstrong Club, because it still meets today and they call it the Headstrong Club today. But I gather from a local historian that it was called the White Hart Dining Club. Oh. And Thomas Paine, up in our sheriff's room, the oak-panelled function room, basically plotted the American Revolution and for a struggle for independence, which resulted in the final Declaration of Independence, an authenticated copy of which we have in the sheriff's room, and he was credited with originating that. And in turn, he dubbed the White Hart Hotel as the cradle of American independence.
He had some remarkable phrases, didn't he? I mean, according to Bill Bryson, he coined the first time the phrase the House of Commons, and also Bryson says that he coined the phrase the United States. So now the White Hart goes down in history as the cradle of independence. It's wonderful. But whoever the landlord was at the time embraced him and said, "Come on in, we love to hear you talk."
It certainly wasn't really. No, you're right. And yes, I think probably as any hotelier, always keen for a little bit of business, and it developed into quite an active dining club, I gather, because they had their volatile political discussions over dinner.
No record of you throwing him out of the hotel?
No, but I have to say that during the times that they have met here recently, we've had some very interesting volatile speakers, lots of celebrities, actors, and I remember Tony Benn's voice drilling through the sheriff's room door. It said, I ought not say too much, but it said that a lot of decisions are made here after the council chambers has closed. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
I think Lewis has embraced Thomas Paine very well. I'm very proud of him because he lived just up the road in the Bull Inn, and of course it was a very easy little trot, and even after he had imbibed, he wouldn't have far to go.
So our Tom, getting nowhere at home, he worked briefly as a customs officer in this house here, married the boss's daughter in the church here, within the town's walls. Then took off to America. In Lewis, he was ranting. In the colonies, he was making sense. He preached revolution, and revolution was what he got. The American colonies broke away to form a new country, the United States. There are many more buildings that either face or back onto the high street. Lewis Prison is a few hundred yards up the road. It has held many famous people, including pop star Mick Jagger. Jagger famously talked his way to a prison phone, called the White Hart Hotel, and ordered a takeaway, which was duly delivered. Tucked away behind these buildings was a naval prison. 250 Russian prisoners captured in a naval battle in the Crimea War were incarcerated here in 1854. Life was harsh for the ratings, but the officers roamed the town at will, socializing with the locals and dining at the tables of the high and the mighty in Lewis. 17 of the ratings died while in prison, and a monument to them stands in the graveyard of a local church. This impressive structure was built by Tsar Alexander II, and its upkeep is still paid for by the Russian embassy in London. There are many other events that make the High Street interesting. The days of great circuses parading their animals. The Prince Regent winning a bet, driving a coach and four down the cobbled street. It's a wonder he didn't break his neck. So today I've taken a snapshot look at Lewis High Street. High Street UK. Every high street has a history. And there are thousands of high streets across the country. And this is just one of them. More high street tales tomorrow. Meanwhile, where's that pint?
Well, there you are. That's the first part of an 8-part series outlining how much blood has been spilled on Lewis Street. Let's see. It's now 9:45. We've been going for about an hour and a bit. I think we'll take a break and see if anything's going to transpire. So just for the moment, it's a toodle, toodle, toodle pip. And